Some of your favorite serial killers just suck. They're constantly nervous, or they're always shaking, or they're always crying. On the other hand, there's killers that will kill someone and cook their body parts for dinner that very same night, all while showing zero emotion. So what actually separates these type of killers? Well, as someone that's watched over 25 serial killer shows, I'm gonna expose the 3 types of killers. The noobs, the professionals, all the way to the elite, top level killer. We're gonna break down what actually divides them by speaking on 3 crucial categories: their killing strategy, their body language, and their reasonings for murder. Starting with the first category, let's talk about the strategy behind these killers. Whether it's the noob killers that murder because they feel like it, all the way to the elite killers somehow kill with no direct involvement, there's some very interesting differences you probably didn't notice. Let's begin with the noobs. When it comes to strategy, these types of killers will kind of just show up and murder in broad daylight, such as Sweet Pea stabbing a guy right in front of a street, or Pearl chasing a guy around in midday with an axe. Even male killers like Ben Point, who will arrive at a public wedding just to murder. This is important because it shows us these people are driven by pure emotion. They can't help themselves but kill whenever the opportunity arises. And since they're driven by this intense emotion, all their technique kind of goes out the window, which results in mostly ineffective killing. Take a look at this killer from this banned movie named Anx. He spends 20 minutes of the movie actually trying to kill this grandmother, but just fails over and over again. Patrick Bateman in American Psycho has the exact same issue. You see these bodies scattered all around the house, and also this girl an hour in that just easily escapes him. It truly shows how unorganized these people are, just falling to their urges. I'm just gonna say, if your hands are fully shaking, just holding a gun, not even killing yet, put the gun back down, pick up a 7-Eleven shift, you brown man, because killing, this isn't your profession, sweetheart. I'm sorry. But now here's where things get interesting. Because if we transition into tier 2, the professional killers, instantly you'll notice that everything is done a lot more effectively. As you just saw, the noob killers have too much emotion, but these professional killers have no emotion. Do you see how this killer from this Bollywood movie stares directly at this child as he kills him? It shows a complete disregard for his life. The scary part is the fact his face is completely relaxed while doing this. Dexter Morgan shows a very similar look, talking and behaving in this overly calm manner even when he's about to murder somebody. In real life, if me and you are sitting in these types of hectic environments, we would literally be incapable of reacting like this. Like, what? And this lack of care is 24/7. It's not like the next day these killers reflect on themselves. Maybe I shouldn't have killed that person from last night. No, literally no. Take a look at this sweet little guy. At first glance, he's just casually shaving his face, wanting to look good for this bright day ahead of it. You'd literally never guess the same guy murdered his girl last night. But clearly that is a thing that doesn't faze him at all. And this carelessness for human life allows these professionals to truly come up with the most efficient plan for murder. One thing I didn't include in the noob section is the murder's kill room, the room they set up and prepare for a murder to happen. And the reason I didn't do that is because all the noobs' kill rooms just suck. Take for example Sweet Pea, who has one sheet of black plastic in her garage floor. Does she know how blood spatter works? Does she just think all the blood is gonna beautifully package up just in this little black area? What? Even Patrick Bateman, he has no gloves, nothing to cover his jeans or his shoes. Clearly just gonna lead to evidence piling up everywhere. These two are gonna be wrapped. But in comparison to that, these pros have an almost perfect kill room. Take Dexter, who completely covers his room with plastic, even ensuring to cover his body head to toe in protective gear. Or take an even more calculated killer like Lorne, who spent half a year faking his identity just to get close with this fat dentist, a dentist that he really wanted to kill. Which should teach you guys these killers are capable of delaying their current urges to find that future perfect moment to then strike. In the professional category, these killers are also now smart enough to fake evidence and completely throw off any suspicion. Take for example here how Hannibal faked a murder by staging the blood spatter, doing so by using a specific machine that ejects blood realistically. Or maybe take a more popular case like Joe Goldberg, who cut off his entire toe to fake his own murder and start over somewhere else. Now guys, obviously this is the best it gets, right? We're faking evidence, we're strategic, we're planning. How can you get more advanced at killing than this? Right? No. Let me now formally introduce you to the top line, the best of the best elite serial killers. In terms of killing strategy, these killers are simply on a different level because in most cases, they don't even perform the murder themselves. They manipulate things to make it seem like other people did the crime, so catching them is literally impossible.
I built a secret empire. I control the lives of thousands of people. My word is life and death. And nobody knows who I am.
How do you catch something that you don't see? Last tier of professional killers, sure, they're very intelligent, but it's still them doing the crime. So if there's somehow any DNA, any witness, any proof left behind, it all falls directly back onto them, leaving them very, very exposed. Not only have these elite killers solved that problem, they have this level of authority over others, which ensures that any type of loose end is tied up instantly. Watch this specific scene where Red John, a very intelligent killer, has this girl leave some info with a detective that's on his trail. What you can notice right here is that after she gives him the mail and they try to ask for more information, she literally says, "I'm done talking," and then poisons herself a minute later. What? It's like she's a dispensable robot that was just there for his needs, literally ending her life after her purpose is done. This same killer also had a CBI agent working as a mole who was sent to take care of other loose ends within the investigative department, which all once again shows us if the killer Red John himself is not there, it's much harder to track him. Anyone connected to him, anyone that relays information from him literally just dies, which is why it took over 6 seasons in his show to get him caught. The only other killer I know that manipulates at this level is Johann Lieber. I'd also classify him as one of the elites because sure, we might see him publicly make appearances, but his whole life is a lie. If you've never seen the show, this guy Johann doesn't really exist. Johann isn't even his real name.
Don't try to blow me off, kid!
It's no use. How do you shoot a person who doesn't even exist?
On top of that, most of his kills he doesn't actually do. He manipulates the other person to sometimes even kill themselves. Please pay attention to this next part because it highlights the difference in murder technique between a noob and an elite killer like Johann. In this specific episode, episode 29, Johann wanted to kill this man named Richard. Richard is a guy that has a dark past and murdered someone, but blamed it on alcohol when in reality he wasn't under the influence. So knowing that, what Johann does is he gets Richard onto a rooftop, but instead of doing what any other killer would do and simply just push him off, Johann is smarter than that and instead he manipulates him. What he does is find out the truth behind Richard's murder and use that to emotionally manipulate him and tell him the real facts he's hidden from the world.
I can't find a single person who saw you drinking before you murdered that young man. This charade has gone on long enough. Were you really drunk when you pulled the trigger?
What?
You were quite sober, and you were calm. How weak the mind when it wants to forget. Maybe you didn't forget. You're guilty of murder. Do you think your lies can free you?
And after putting him in this vulnerable headspace, he does this very sneaky trick.
Well, Richard, how about a drink?
He offers alcohol to Richard, a man that's been sober for years now. So now combining the fact they're on a rooftop at night with alcohol in a bad mental space, at that point, Johann doesn't have to do anything. The story writes itself. Of course, in the next episode, he's found dead because he killed himself. Johann didn't do it. That is the level these elite killers take it to, all to ensure they aren't directly involved. Guys, when I first watched this, I was like, yo, that is so attractive. I'm turned on, bro. Anyways, I hope you guys are subscribed by now because things are only gonna get juicier as we go on. Because clearly you guys now understand how these killers operate and their strategy, but if you saw them in person, could you even catch them? Because sometimes you don't catch a killer by evidence, you catch onto them by examining their vibe, their overall body language. Now, let me explain the secret body language differences between a noob killer who would get caught in 5 seconds versus an elite killer that could live their entire life jail-free. Starting with the noob killers, their body language is simply too too expressive. Take this scene from Sweet Pea where the cops actually show up, which makes it a perfect example. We see the nervousness in her eyes, the way they glance all around the room. It can't hold back the guilt of murder, and this is a reflection of that. Even her body is slightly cowered into the corner. The same goes for most other female killers. Take Aileen in this 2003 movie, another female killer that's constantly showing all types of expressions. Whether it's her hesitancy right before she's about to kill someone, or it's the rapid glancing you see in her eyes when she's stuck in jail. She's also clearly unable to hide her real feelings, which is why she gets caught up so easily. I know this might sound crazy, but another popular killer, Joe Goldberg, would also kind of fall in this Noob section, at least in terms of body language. I've noted down getting worked up, such as him crying his eyes out right here, also right here. Someone that's so passionate all the time, it's much more likely for them to crack under pressure under the right circumstances, because there's just so much telling on his face. But now that you probably left a hate comment, oh my god, no, Job is not Noob, no. And now that you also understand that Noob killers are all expressionate, this makes our job for the elite killers pretty easy, because all we have to do is find the opposite. Find killers that show the minimum expression, because it's very hard to interrogate someone that shows you absolutely nothing on their face. Say for example, Hannibal Lector, probably the most professionally behaving killer I've ever witnessed. Every single thing he does is calculated. In my last YouTube video, I already mentioned many of his robotic movements that help him stay stone cold and prevent him from any suspicions. Do you see how only the mouth is moving, but the eye area isn't affected at all? Even the original Hannibal in Silence of the Lambs does this exact same thing, where he goes on very long rants, but only the mouth is seen moving. Watch the robotic way his head turns 3 separate times, almost manually, to look back at the guy holding a knife to him, who turns their head in 3 different steps. And it's the fact that he's able to murder his victims, decorate his victims, cook them up for dinner, all while keeping his composure this collected. That is so much more talentful than people realize. And it's exactly what kept people off his back in this show. He was so well respected, so professional, so courteous. But what do you know? That man was Nazi. I'm losing my mind. I'm literally losing my mind. Anyways, this special professionalism is also shown by Lorne Malvo, which is beautifully shown in one of the best acted scenes from any serial killer ever. To give you some context, Lorne is this serial killer here, while this guy is Lester, a guy whose life he kind of ruined by killing his wife, killing some other people, and then fleeing the country. And this is the exact scene where Lester now finds him. And Lorne's response at first is he tries to play dumb.
Never met this man before in my life. No.
He tries to keep things unescalated to keep his cover, but then eventually you see this shift in his behavior.
I've worked too hard. I've come too far.
Lester, stop.
And you see his eyes get so talentfully still while he brings out these creepy smiles. He slows down dramatically and asks Lester if this is what he wants. Watch how patiently he waits for a response.
Is this what you want?
Notice how he's barely moving, just sitting there. And then when Lester says, yes, I want this.
Yes or no?
Yes.
When I first watched this, I was shocked. No one could have guessed he's about to do this right then and there. And I realized the reason behind that is because he was so relaxed beforehand. He was just sitting there waiting, which makes it really clear now that these elite killers, their motives are undetectable when it gets to this level of calm. Wow, man, absolutely wow. Now, before we get to a very interesting part, make sure you join my Discord, link in description, if you want to talk about serial killer shows or movies, or maybe even feature in one of my YouTube videos, all that great stuff. Anyways, welcome back. This video is so exciting because now this next section is somehow even more interesting. We're gonna talk about why these killers actually kill, their reasoning. You guys understand their methods, you guys understand the body language, but why do what you do? Because the reasons can go from simple things like killing someone because you're angry to very grand reasons like killing for art, killing for public recognition. I'm telling you guys, things get weird really fast. But But before we get to that, starting with the Noob killers, they mainly only kill because of instinct. If we go back to Rhiannon from Sweet Pea, she killed people very simply because they were rude to her. Like this guy outside of the club, he was just being mean, which eventually got her triggered and ended up with a knife 6 inches inside of him. Same goes for Love Quinn, who didn't even have intentions of killing anyone. She was just baking in her bake shop, but this man named Gib just pissed her off a little too much because he's anti-vaccine and her child got sick, blah blah blah. But even that alone was enough to set her off. And you see the poor man get bashed in the head and locked in the basement. What's interesting is I can almost guarantee if she thought about this for just 2 minutes, I think she'd probably reflect and say something like, so I know he was a little annoying, but he's never actually did anything too bad for me. I don't know if he needs to lose his life. Let me continue cooking. But instead, no, he's doomed for death now, so bye-bye! As you see throughout all these shows, puts these killers in very tricky, unfavorable positions because it's such an uncalculated kill, especially when you compare it to these professional killers. These killers who mostly have the mindset of targeted killer. Maybe when they were younger, they had some sort of trauma or incident, which makes them now hate a specific type of person. So when they grow up, all they want to do is kill that type of person. Take for example, this killer, Henry, who states he only killed his mom because she was a HOE.
My mama was a
which really scarred him deep down and resulted in him growing up and killing other prostitutes because he thinks they're all bad. Exact same thing with this other killer. She was assaulted when she was younger, so now as a grown-up, she runs around just killing men that seem abusive. What's interesting here is these killers have at least some sort of agenda, so ahead of time they'll have their targets in mind, they'll have somewhat of a strategy to at least execute the murder, which means these kills are usually more planned out, at least compared to the noobs. Clearly a much bigger advantage than murdering some boy outside of a club, because I'm gonna be honest, I have no clue how this girl got away with that. Literally outside the club, down the alley. Now guys, take a deep breath, because now here's where things start to get really weird. We're gonna talk about the elite killers who are on a completely new level of delusion. Their reason behind killing is mainly just entertainment. I'm not kidding. They treat serial killing as a literal game, a challenge they want to win. A great example of this is Sunny in Mardani 2. He's a typical killer who mostly goes around killing women in India, but what you'll notice is he gets amused hearing this officer say she'll eventually catch him. This is a thrill to him, and we see that amusement on his face. He then decides he wants to join in on this little game, and he breaks into the same cop's house to leave a symbol on the mirror, sort of like the next move on his chessboard. And throughout the movie, he continues to taunt the cops and even sticks a picture of this lead sergeant on one of the victims he killed. It's such an interesting back and forth we see him play in this movie. Another interesting thing you'll note is that noob or pro killers probably don't want to get noticed for their work, but these elite killers, oh, yo, bring it on. They want to be praised for their efforts.
सनी सिर्फ मारता नहीं दिखावा करता है.
Even moving back into Hollywood, the Zodiac killer very similarly sends the police detailed notes of his murders, and even asking for people to wear buttons praising him. And the list goes on and on. Red John does the exact same thing with his infamous smiley face symbol that he flashed any chance he got, whether it's in the sky, on the wall. Killing is like a job they want to be congratulated for. But oh my god, it doesn't even stop there. The twisted part is some killers murder not just for praise, but for art. Hannibal Lector literally killed people just to decorate their body in different ways. He simply killed for enjoyment, whether turning them into an instrument that you can play or a tree that you can touch. And it's one of the core reasons he doesn't get caught, because he's not even doing it for a motive. He's doing it for art. We can move even past this and talk about some killers that only kill for fantasy. Exactly like this killer in the 1983 movie Angst, who even after killing wanted to make a fun experiment. So he had the idea to capture and find new victims and lock them together with the 3 existing dead bodies he was responsible for.
Mir sofort neue Opfer besorgt. Ich war ganz wild darauf. Ich wollte den neuen Opfern die Leichen zeigen, dass ich die neuen Opfer mit den Leichen zusammensperre.
Going on to literally state the fact that this would surely kill some of them out of fear.
Furchtbare Angst einjagen, würden sie sicher zu Tode erschrecken.
He wanted to see for himself if more people could die from the fear of bodies alone. Do you see how weird these fantasies are now getting? And oh my god, he's so completely delusional that when he eventually gets caught in the end and he's forced to open the trunk and show the bodies to the cops, this man genuinely believes and says the words, "Everyone is gonna be scared to death." Now everybody is afraid of me. We are entering a realm that is beyond out of touch, out of reality. Oh, I promise you those cops aren't falling and dying because of your bodies, bro. They're cops. Relax, sweetie. And baby girls, the truth is, my YouTube videos are also out of reality, out of this world. So please make sure you guys subscribe to never miss another video. And if you like these serial killer type of videos, make sure you click this playlist filled with my videos on serial killers. And make sure you do the other boring stuff, join my Discord, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Deuces.